name is Kristen and this is Kristen Craves Book. Look at me filming this video ahead of time so I can get it up for you before the start of August. The last couple of months, I just haven't had time to film. I don't know what's going on, but I feel like I'm back in the reading mood. I'm excited to be filming again. I'm okay with editing myself again sometimes. I don't know if other content creators feel this at all, but sometimes you just don't want to stare at yourself or hear your voice for hours on end to edit. But I've come around to that now, so I'm excited to be filming this. The first day of book releases in August is the 6th, and it's going to be painful for my wallet. Or I'm going to be on long holds at the library because there are some really exciting books coming out in August, particularly on that day, some of my most anticipated of the entire year. So we're going to talk about them all. More pre-orders this time, and because I'm filming this early, there might be some pre-order announcements that come out that aren't out as I'm filming this, but if I find some more, I will always keep that updated in the comment section and into the description, so you can check back if you're curious. But we definitely do have a lot more pre-order incentives in August than we did in July, some really good ones, so we'll talk about it all right now. As I was saying, August 6th, huge release day. We're starting with a banger here, and this is The Dead Cattail Assassins by P. Djeli Clark. I read my first P. Djeli Clark last year, fell in love. I think that he's brilliant, and this has a cat in the title, and they're wearing a cat mask. I know the synopsis makes it clear that there are no actual cats in the story, but you know, if anything relates back to cats somehow, I'm gonna be intrigued by it, and it's P. Djeli Clark, and there's assassins. So many buzzwords right there. And it says the dead cat's assassins are not cats. There you go. They do not have tails, but they are most assuredly dead. So I know that P. Djeli Clark has a lot of short stories and full-length novels all set in the same world. This is the start of a new fantasy series, a new world that he's created, which is always exciting. So this follows Aveen the Eviscerator, and she is deadly, highly trained. She is in charge of this matron of assassins. So there are 3 rules that everybody who joins this League of Assassins must follow. The first one is that the contracts that they make must be just. The second one is that they must only kill the people that they're contracted to kill. And the third one is that they must carry out their contract. So that seems pretty simple, but I have a feeling that things are going to get complicated here. And as I said, I just trust P. Djeli Clark. And it says that when the Festival of Clockwork King turns the city upside down, Aveen's newest mission brings her face to face with the past she isn't supposed to remember and a vow she can't forget. So I think when you join this League of Assassins as well, they wipe your memories. So that's always an interesting dynamic as well. So I haven't seen many early reviews of this one yet, but I have a feeling it's gonna be amazing. I'm currently in the middle of an e-arc for a different book that comes out in August that we'll get to, but as soon as I'm finished that, I'm gonna be starting my e-arc of this one because I forgot that it came out on the 6th and I'm running out of time, but I have to do it because it is a new T. Kingfisher. And I was so excited. I think that came up as a read now on NetGalley, if I'm not mistaken. And I just grabbed it and I'm so excited about it. So this is A Sorcerer Comes to Call, and it is a dark retelling of Goose Girl. I feel like we've gotten a few of these Goose Girl retellings, and I think they're always interesting, and I just love to see how T. Kingfisher in particular retells a fairy tale like that one, and she never misses for me. You know I love her. I have heard that this is darker than you might expect. I do feel like she's getting a little bit darker in her fairy tale retellings lately, and I am 100% down for that, so I'll be starting that one soon. It follows Cordelia, who knows that her mom is not like other moms, and throughout her childhood, her mom has made her sit still and in silence for hours on end, sometimes days, and she's not allowed to have any friends. The only friend she has is her mom's horse, who she enjoys riding in the evenings and things like that. But then one day, somebody within their village is murdered. Her and her mother escape into the middle of the night on this horse. They end up at this stately manor where there is a squire and the squire's sister, and the mom's plan is to like seduce the older squire, and the sister knows that the mom is bad news and she wants to save both her brother and Cordelia, our main character. So I'm curious to see how that all plays out. As I said, I like the darker approach that T. Kingfisher has taken a little bit lately, even though I do love her whimsy stuff as well. We will see. I've been hearing good things about this one. And we actually do have a pre-order incentive for this one, so one that I'm going to grab because it's T. Kingfisher, and it is the stunning art print of the horse, and I think that this is going to be absolutely gorgeous in person, and obviously the horse plays a big part in this story, so that intrigues me for sure. And I just want to point out that it says the hardcover of this book has a stamp on the cover, like a gold foil stamp on the hardback, and that the end papers are actually drawn by T. Kingfisher. And if you didn't know, T. Kingfisher is actually Ursula Vernon. That is her real name. T. Kingfisher is a pen name. And if you look her up, she has some pretty cool art. She's a really good artist as well. So I'm excited to see how those look. Maybe I'm even more excited to see those than I am to read the book, but that's not true. I'm excited for both because she's just talented all around. And then another favorite author of mine who I feel like is more hit or miss for people than T. Kingfisher is, but is somebody who I personally love, is Sylvia Moreno Garcia. And she has a new book coming out that sounds different from anything she's done before, and it's called The Seventh Veil of Salome. And this actually follows 3 women. 2 are actresses. This is set in the golden age of Hollywood, so we're talking the 1950s, and everybody is trying to win this part, playing the leading role in a new movie based on the life of this woman named Salome. So we follow the girl who is cast as the lead. We follow another girl who is more of a B-list actress who really wanted the part and is now envious of the woman who got the part. So we follow their dynamics, all the behind the scenes stuff of them making this movie, which is always something I really love. I have read quite a few books in all genres. I just like to see the making of a movie or the making of some kind of creative product. I always think that is really interesting. So, and there's gonna be drama. You know that this is gonna lead to some drama, but then you also follow the life of Salome, who is the woman this movie is based on. So you get some different timelines, some flashbacks, things like that. I think there's gonna be a lot of layers to this story. I like the way that this author writes. She tends to work for me, so I cannot wait for that one. As I said, huge release day for me. And then one of my most anticipated romances comes out on this day, and I haven't read from this author before, but her books always intrigue me, and I just love how punny the synopsis of this book is and the title and everything about it. And it's called Second Tides, The Charm, and it's by Chandra Bloomberg. And as you can see, there's something to do with sharks here. Now, sharks have been in the news a lot lately for, you know, scary reasons, but I can embrace a romance centered around sharks. We're following these 2 characters. She is into shark research. I think she's a marine biologist, and she's gonna spend her summer on this boat. And it turns out that the owner of the ship is actually her ex-boyfriend, and he has a really popular YouTube channel where he dispels myths about sharks. So they both have this passion, and they're forced into this situation, so you're gonna get forced proximity, which is always a fun trope. Second chance romance, which is not everybody's favorite, but I love it. And I swear the amount of puns in this synopsis, you have to read it for yourself. I'll leave it linked down below, but they're so funny. So side by side, weathering the storms of every kind, they'll have to navigate the murky waters of past hurts and hope it's not too late to chart a new course. Cute. And there is a pre-order incentive. I will leave a link to the form down below. You just have to prove that you bought it from anywhere, which is fun. And you will get an art print, aren't they stunning, and a signed book plate with the little sharks on it, so adorable. And now on a completely different note, we have a horror that seems to lean more literary, and this is called House of Bone and Rain. It is following a group of 5 teenage boys living in Puerto Rico who are seeking vengeance after one of their mothers is murdered. A doomed tale of devotion and the afterlife of violence. So obviously one of the boys in the story loses his mom. She is shot and killed, and he is on a mission for revenge and calls his friends to help. They realize that she was killed by these men who run with the kingpin, the drug kingpin of Puerto Rico, so it's very, very dangerous. And while the story is unfolding, there's also a hurricane brewing, and it is said that evil spirits live within these hurricanes, so you have that in the backdrop of the story as well. So I think there's maybe a little bit of magical realism to this one. It says, blurring the boundaries between myth, mythicism, and grim realities of our world, House of Bone and Rain is a harrowing coming-of-age story, a doomed tale of devotion, the afterlife of violence, and what rolls in on the tide. So I've been embracing horror a little bit more lately because it was a big part of my reading last year, and I'm realizing that I really crave that again. And I just read I Was a Teenage Slasher, love that one. So I think this is something that will make me think. I love horror that has something to say, and I think a lot of horror does, and that's why I love it. And I think this is gonna fall in that category. I love grief horror, and obviously with the loss of his mother, that's a big thing in here. The little possible magical realism elements in this also intrigue me, so yeah, definitely screams what I'm in the mood for at this moment. We're still on August 6th, if you can believe that. We have This Ravenous Fate by Haley Dennings, and this is a sapphic vampire novel. So there you go. It is the first book in a decadent fantasy duology. We love a duology around here. set in Jazz Age Harlem, where at night the dance halls come to life and death waits in the dark. So this seems to be a vampire hunter romance, but in this story they're called the Reapers, and it's set in 1926 New York. One of our leads is the heir to an empire of vampire reapers. She's just come home from Paris after being away for a few years, and she's reluctant to take over the family business. And then we follow a Reaper, and she is different in that she hasn't been around for very long. She was turned into a vampire 5 years ago, and these two seem to have some kind of connection, and maybe they knew each other in the past before the Reaper became a Reaper, and maybe she's seeking vengeance. So the plot of this one is that some of the Reapers are becoming human again and are going on killing sprees, and Layla, who is our Reaper in the story, is being framed for it, and she seeks the help of an old friend who is now an enemy. And there is a pre-order campaign. There are 2 art prints that you can get, a signed book plate, and some digital incentives as well, 5-page annotations, and an annotated playlist, so that is all fun. And then finally, lastly, for August 6th, we have a romance, and this is The Truth According to Ember by Danica Nava. It says, liar, liar, heart on fire. Now, I'm always a little bit worried when romances start and center around a lie, but I am intrigued by this one. I've been hearing great things. It says that a Chickasaw woman who can't catch a break serves up a little white lie that snowballs into much more in this witty and irresistible rom-com by debut author Danica Nava. So, Ember obviously is our main character in this case, and she has applied to many jobs. She's received 37 rejections, so she decides to make little changes to her resume. It says it's because no one wanted Native American Ember, but white Ember just landed her dream accounting job on Park Avenue in Oklahoma City, that is, not New York. So now that she has this dream job, she's an accountant, she meets the love interest who is an IT guy on her first day at work. Of course, that's what always happens, and they don't want people to know that they are together, so they start sneaking around, and they are caught in a compromising position on a work trip, and now the person that saw them is blackmailing her. So I'm excited about this one. The blackmail stuff kind of stresses me out a little bit, but I've heard good things. We'll see how it all plays out, but I think it's an interesting setup and one I definitely want to try. August 13th, we have the 3rd book in a series. I've read the first one, and I'm currently listening to the second one on audiobook because I was reminded the 3rd one's coming out. So this is A Werewolf's Guide to Seducing a Vampire, and this is by Sarah Hawley. The first one was A Witch's Guide to Fake Dating a Demon. It's right behind me. I loved it. The second one is something wooing a witch. A Demon's Guide to Wooing a Witch. I think that's what it is. So I'm really excited about this 3rd one, and it is following a werewolf, obviously, who owns a thriving plant business. We love to see that. But his love life is non-existent, and one day he is online shopping drunkenly, which is always a mistake, and he ends up winning some kind of possessed crystal on eBay, I think for 99 cents or something, and he had no idea that inside of this crystal was this vampire, and she's furious. She was cursed by a witch like in medieval times, and she's been stuck in here being used by this witch ever since, and she has no idea why the witch sold her on eBay for so cheap, and now the two are kind of bound together, and he wants to help her break the curse. And obviously it's Grumpy Sunshine, where he is the sunshine and she is the grump, and I just like all the tropes that this author uses and the setups that she does, and they're always fun. Like, that setup alone is just kind of hilarious, so you know what to expect from this kind of book, and I'm really excited about it. Mistress of Lies by K.M. Enright is next, and the tagline says, "Fate is a cruel mistress." Our main character is Shan, and she spent her entire life perfecting blood magic, creating a network of spies, and really harnessing her power, and her father is a disgraced blood worker, and one day, in order to protect her brother, she has to assassinate her own father. And it says here that that is only the start of her revenge, so you know I'm always up for a revenge story. And then it also follows Samuel, who has some kind of terrible gift that the synopsis doesn't tell us about, but I'm eager to learn more about, and he stumbles upon the first victim of a magical serial killer, and he gets sucked into this whole world of the vampire court, something he never wanted for himself. So then Samuel, Shan, and some kind of royal blood worker named Isaac have to work together to find the killer, and the three of them grow closer and closer, so I'm interested to see where that goes. And it says Shan's plans are treacherous as she lures Samuel into a complicated web of desire, treason, and vengeance. He must decide if The good of their nation is worth the cost of his soul. That sounds amazing. Ava Reed has a new book coming out. Now, I always put Ava Reed's books in these videos. Every year she comes out with a book, I get excited for it. Never read it. Haven't read anything by her yet. But Lady Macbeth, this is the year. I gotta try this one. First of all, love this cover. I think this cover is so cool. Love this whole concept. Obviously, Lady Macbeth is character from Macbeth, the Shakespeare play. And this is a story that's giving her own voice, and she was always the most intriguing character in that play, let's just be honest. So I'm excited to have her as a lead. And the synopsis is really well done, so I'm just going to read it to you. It's short. It says, "The lady knows the stories, how her eyes induce madness in men. The lady knows that she will be wed to the Scottish brute, who does not leave his warrior ways behind when he comes to the marriage bed. The lady knows his hostile, suspicious court will be a game of strategy, requiring all of her wiles and hidden witchcraft to survive. But the lady does not know her husband has occult secrets of his own. She does not know that prophecy girds him like armor. She does not know that her magic is greater and more dangerous, and that it will threaten the order of the world. She does not know this yet, but she will." You see what I mean about the synopsis? So intriguing. So there is a pre-order campaign. You will get a signed book plate that actually has the character on the cover on that, and I love that so much, and an art print. We're getting a lot of art prints, and they're all stunning. Then we have a cozy fantasy, and a lot of you were lucky enough to get e-arcs of this, and have read it and loved it and told me I'm gonna love it, and you've built this up in my mind, so I have a feeling it's gonna work for me. And it's called The Phoenix Keeper by S.A. McLean. And the tagline is, "Falling in love never burned so bright." So it's a cozy fantasy romance. It's set at a magical zoo, like a zoo for magical creatures, and our main character is in charge of the phoenix. She's a phoenix keeper, obviously given the title, and they are endangered, and she spent her whole life trying to save them. And a neighboring zoo, there's some kind of heist involved, and they are no longer able to do their research into saving the phoenix, and she has to put together some kind of proposal to prove that she can take over, even though they don't have the greatest facilities at her zoo. So she reluctantly has to ask for help from the griffin keeper, who happens to be her college rival. So rivals to lovers here, and he's really popular, and that's like the most famous exhibit at the zoo and all this kind of stuff. So they have this rivalry going on between them. It says, "With the world watching and the threat of poachers looming, Ayla's success is no longer merely a matter of keeping her job. She is the keeper of the phoenix, and the future of the species now rests on her shoulders. There's just one thing she has to remember. She is also not alone. Against an epic fantasy backdrop, teeming with all your favorite mythical beasts, from dragons and unicorns to kelpies and krakens, the Phoenix Keeper combines the visceral effervescence of cozy fantasy kings TJ Klune and Travis Baldree with the soul-restoring romance of queer icons Alice Oseman and Casey McQuiston." So yeah, you guys have hyped that one up in my DMs, and I love you for it, and I think you're right, it does sound like a me book. Okay, the arc that I'm currently reading and absolutely in love with, obsessed with, and I knew I would be, is The Maid and the Crocodile by Jordan Afreco. Jordan Afreco wrote Ray Bear, one of my favorite things ever. Not just books, like one of my favorite things. I just love Ray Bear so much, have since it came out. We'll continue to talk about it till the end of time. This is a fantasy romance set in the same world as Ray Bear. And the author does make mention, and it's probably true, that you don't need to have read Ray Bear to read this one and appreciate it. But why would you skip it? It's my favorite thing. So read Ray Bear first, because I think because it's in the same world, you'll just have more affection for it. And I think that's really what is happening to me. I'm just thinking about how much I love that story in the world that she's created. And she's a genius for continuing to write in that world because there's so much potential there. And I love that this is leaning a little bit more adult, and that we're leaning into a romance more in this one. I'm not that far into it, but I am just adoring the main character so much. It opens up with her aging out of this orphanage, and they kind of just give you some money to pay for a rickshaw. You go to the capital city, you hope you can find a job. That's really what it is, and she's hoping to be a maid because she has some magical cleaning going on. I won't spoil too much. I think it's probably best to go into this knowing nothing, just trusting that Jordan Afreco knows what she's doing. And there's something special about our main character. She is able to see things others aren't able to see. So I don't want to say too much more than that. Just experience it for yourself. I'm absolutely loving it. And I was so excited when this was announced, and it's living up to the hype, at least so far for me. So I will have an update for you at the end of July on how I feel about that one. So some time to pre-order it because it doesn't come out till August 13th, and I will have pre-ordered it. I'm sure it's stunning in person. I just love her so much. I can go on and on about Jordan and Fuego for ages, so I will stop. Then we have a YA horror, and you know at this point how much I love YA horror in the summertime. So this is The Dark We Know by Wenyi Lee, and this is a debut, which I always appreciate. It says, art student Isadora Chang swore never to return to Slater. Growing up, Issa never felt at ease in the repressive former mining town even before she realized she was bisexual. But after the deaths of 2 of her childhood friends, Slater went from feeling claustrophobic to suffocating. Issa took off before the town could swallow her too, even though it meant leaving behind everything she knew, including her last surviving friend, Mason. So Issa's father dies. He was abusive, but she comes back to town to collect her inheritance, and she ends up meeting up with a medium there who is telling her things are happening in the cemetery where her friends are buried, and some creepy things are happening. I think sketches are showing up in her sketchbook that she didn't draw, and she's hearing strange songs at night and stuff like that. So there's some kind of entity at play here, and yeah, it just has so many of my buzzwords. I think that this is one that I'm going to personally like, and I'm always here for a debut. And there's a really great pre-order campaign for this one as well, which I feel like you don't get with debut authors as much, but you actually get art overlays to put inside your book, and they look absolutely stunning. It looks like there's 3 of them here, and a signed book plate and an enamel pin. So loving everything about that vibe, and the book sounds great as well. Diana Urban is somebody who seems to be putting out a YA thriller a year in the summertime, and I always put her books on these lists, and I haven't read anything by her. What else is new? But this one is really calling to me. It's called Under the Surface, and it's set in the Paris catacombs. Now, I went into the catacombs in Rome, and it was terrifying. I am somebody who has claustrophobia, so reading about it is going to be a lot for me, but that's what you want when you read a horror. An epic survival thriller about 4 teens who get lost in the Paris catacombs for days. A gripping and propulsive story of love, danger, betrayal, and hope, even when all seems lost. So I know we're following the teenagers in the catacombs. They're on a school trip. They sneak out at night. They go down there. They get lost. So we're following them and how that plays out. And one of the characters has a crush on somebody who is above the surface, who didn't sneak out with them at night, and he is helping look for her. So I like that we're getting different perspectives. Seems to be a bit of a romance as well. The tagline says, she'll do whatever it takes to survive, he'll do whatever it takes to find her. Okay, finally, August 20th, we have The Volcano Daughters by Gina Maria Belbrera, and this is a saucy, searingly original debut about 2 sisters raised in the shadows of El Salvador's brutal dictator, which takes them from Hollywood to Paris to Cannery Row, each followed by a chorus of furies, the ghosts of their murdered friends who aren't yet done telling their story. This sounds like the kind of historical fiction that I like, that follows people throughout the generations or throughout different places in the world, and you really get deep into their stories. And I'm wondering if it has a collective we. When they talk about the chorus of furies, I have come across certain books where we have a collective we that come together to share their perspectives on what is happening in the story. And when that is done well, I really, really like it. So I'm wondering if that's part of this. So it's El Salvador, 1923. It says that it charts through stories of these sisters and the ghosts they carry with them, a new history and mythology of El Salvador, fiercely bringing forth voices that have been calling out for generations. So yeah, again, as I said with horror, I need to start embracing my love of historical fiction, because you probably can't see it here. I think up there, like, some of my favorite books of all time are historical fiction that kind of fall into this similar category as this one seems to. So yeah, that's definitely high on my list. Next is a romance that just looks fun. It just looks like plain fun, and it's called Love and Other Conspiracies. I've read a lot of these romances that are love and other blank, so that seems to be a trend. And this one is by Mallory Merlot, and this says, they want to believe. That's a tagline. The hardest thing for a paranormal conspiracy theorist and a web series producer to believe in is finding love in the swoony debut romantic comedy. So Haley has this popular web series. She was actually working on it with her boyfriend, and then she was famously dumped, and now she needs to find something else to do. And Hayden has a podcast where he talks about like Bigfoot and stuff like that, and I think they are kind of being forced to work on this show together. And it says, as Hayden and Haley investigate the unknown, they unearth feelings for each other that shake their beliefs to the core. In their search for the Mothman, aliens, and the truth, the most elusive discovery might just be learning to love again. Sweet. And I love the pre-order incentive for this. You get this adorable art print of them like at this cabin, and I'm here for it. And then a sticker. Really, I'm all about the sticker. It says the out there with the aliens or the Bigfoot and Mothman and the 2 of them beside the UFO. So adorable. Jessie Q Centano has a book coming out. I have not read anything by her, but I know a lot of people love her stuff, and this one sounds really good. It's called You Will Never Be Me. When cracks start forming in an influencer's curated life, she finds out that jealousy is just as viral as a video. So it's a suspense novel following an influencer. I feel like we have a lot of those lately, but I'm curious to see if this does something different. So it follows these two women, Meredith and Aspen. And Meredith taught Aspen everything that she knows about social media and how to be an influencer. And as soon as she became big, she ditched Meredith. And obviously, Meredith is not happy about this. She comes across one of Aspen's kids' iPads and starts to figure out all the family's passwords and how to change the schedule and really mess with Aspen's life. So she's doing that, and Aspen can't figure out why her perfect life is kind of falling apart. It says when Meredith suddenly goes missing, Aspen's world is upended and mysterious threats begin to arrive, but she won't let anything get in the way of her perfect life again. My Lady Jane is a book that I read years ago and really had fun with, and then I saw that it was adapted and people seem to be liking it, so I haven't watched it yet. Let me know if it's any good. But that book was so ridiculous. I'm wondering how it translates into a TV show, but if they do it well, I think it could be fun. And then I was reminded of that author trio, and I did read the first book in their series that follows different characters named Mary. So is it My Contrary Mary, the first one in that series? So I was excited to see that they have another book in that series coming out. I still have to read the second one, but this one's called My Salty Mary. And the whole premise of the series and the Jane series, in this case, they take famous Marys and retell their stories. So this one is following Mary Read, who is a really famous pirate. I've said this many times, I want to love pirate stories. So I keep trying them. I hope this one works because I do like the project of these books quite a bit. One of them is Mary Shelley. So I just think it's fun what they do, and they add some fantasy, like magical realism elements to their books, and they just are plain ridiculous. It's a great time. You gotta listen to the audiobooks of these. It's a fantastical, romantical, and piratical historical fantasy remix that marries the story of the Little Mermaid with the life and times of the infamous lady pirate Mary Read. So yeah, just a ridiculous premise, and I'm here for it, especially with that show coming out, and it makes me excited about this whole project again. I also want to mention that Wisteria by Adeline Grace comes out. That's the third book in, I don't even know what the series is called, but the first book was Belladonna, which I loved. Haven't read the second one yet, Foxglove. I do own it, so I need to do that. And then the third one is obviously Wisteria. Don't look into the synopsis of the third one. I feel like it spoils a lot. So there you go. Just in case you're already a fan of that series, the third book does come out in August. And if you have been collecting the Fairy Loot books like I have, I think it's August 6th that drops to buy. I'll leave a link to that as well, because I think that might be the last Fairy Loot book I ever buy. No, there's Emily Wilde as well. I will just be buying the sequels that are to the books that I already have from Fairy Loot at this point, but that's definitely one I need to get. Okay, the last day, August 27th. We're trucking through, we're getting through it. I'm losing my voice. As always, I forget how long it takes me to film these. Even though I love doing them, I've been sitting here for like an hour and a half, stumbling over my words, taking a million drinks, and losing my voice, but it's a fun time. So the first one, Practical Rules for Cursed Witches by Kayla Cottingham, who wrote This Delicious Death, which I read last year and freaking loved. I thought it was so much fun. I love a campy YA horror. That one was about zombies at like a music festival and they eat men, and it's a good time. So this new one from her is a sapphic fantasy adventure about a teen witch who must complete her magical training by breaking a powerful family's curse. That seems to often be the case with witchy stories. There's always a family curse in a witchy story, isn't there? But her own affliction to never find true love, again, always seems to be the case in the witchy story. I think Practical Magic started us on that. Gets in the way when she falls for the girl she's trying to save. So typical witchy setup, as we have just learned as I was unpacking this synopsis, but it's sapphic, and you know what, I don't get tired of that trope. Honestly, a lot of my favorite witchy books had that setup, so I'm continuing to eat it up. I'm excited about that one. Ryan Grodin, who wrote Wolf by Wolf, which was really popular on BookTube a few years ago, maybe 10 years ago, has a new book coming out. Actually, I think she has 2 books coming out this year, but this one comes out in August. It's called The Enchanted Lives of Celeste Artois, I think. And it says, in this lush and lyrical fantasy, Ryan Grodwin transports readers to the hidden magical pockets of early 1900s Paris, a place of enchanted salons, fortune tellers who can change your stars, and doorways that can take you to the most unexpected places, and introduces readers to the delightful Celeste Artois, a con artist who will make a deal with the devil in exchange for her life and change the fate of the world. We love a quick synopsis like that gives you everything that you need to know. I think that this will lead into like the historical cozy fantasy that I tend to like. I love following a con artist as well, so she seems like a really interesting character. I'm always up for a deal with the devil. That always ends well, doesn't it? So yeah, I've been excited about that one. There's a black cat on the cover. So there you go. What more do I need to say? There is a pre-order incentive campaign for this one, and it is a stunning art print. Like, the artist on this one is extremely talented, but the cat on the cover of this one is an orange cat, which, you know what, I love as well. So very cute. Yeah, I love all the details on this print. It's stunning and just makes me want to read the book even more. And then last but not least, we have a sequel to a book that I own but have not read yet. So this one is called You're the Problem, It's You by Emma R. Albin, and the first one is Don't Want You Like a Best Friend. And I just love the covers of this series, especially this one. Looks absolutely adorable. This is Enemies to Lovers, queer Victorian romance in which a young lord and a second son clash but find themselves thrust together again and again by their meddling cousins. The man is without a doubt the most obnoxious, insufferable, hottest man to ever walk the ton. Yeah, I love this. This sounds so much fun, but I gotta read the first one first. Anyways, those are all the books coming out in August that I'm excited for. Let me know if I missed any. Let me know if you've read any EARCs of these ones, if you pre-ordered them, if you're also excited for them, if you're putting library holds on them. I want to talk about them with you, so tell me all the things. Thank you again for your support. I'll talk to y'all soon. Bye for now.